Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Megha Sharma. Now, in the most interesting development that has taken place in Syria, the Syrian rebels have become more powerful in being able to take control of Damascus. This after the 3 cities that they have been able to take control of in the last few days. This happens at the very same time that Hezbollah and Israel have negotiated a very sensitive ceasefire. Iran has begun evacuating its military personnel from Syria. The president of Syria, Bashar al-Assad, the whereabouts are untraceable. His family has fled. And the question arises is what will be the impact if the Syrian rebels overthrow the Assad government of 24 years? How does the Syria civil war impact Israel-Lebanon conflict? What role does Russia have to play in all of this? And is the US once again orchestrating the rebellion of the Syrians against the Assad government with Israel working in tandem with it? Let's start our conversation. Joining me on the telecast, Dr. Wael Awad. Could you please shed more light into what could be the possible implications of a rebellion of the Syrian rebels if they were to be successful in being able to control Damascus?
Thank you, Megha. I think they have yet to conquer Damascus. They have already taken Aleppo. Hama, they are still fighting. They are encroaching into Homs. They are going toward the south border with Jordan in Dara and Suwaida. But the overall situation is very grim. Definitely the Syrian government, the Syrian forces are trying to repulse these attacks because of the more than 30,000 terrorists join hand, 31 jihadist Takfiri, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or affiliated to Al-Qaeda, which is recognized by the UN as a terrorist organization, joined hand with the help of Turkey, of course, who armed them with the guns, with the drones, with the anti-missiles, and they invaded Syria, and under the pretext of calling them rebels or opposition. So we understand the Turkish game plan in Syria to divide, because the next day we saw the Turkish flag over the castle of Aleppo, and also in the street of Aleppo, and some of the parliamentarian chairman and the speakers in the Turkish parliament, they're saying that Aleppo is part of Syria. So if we understand the game plan, we should see it from the historical point of view, where the 2011, where all the terrorists from 173,000 terrorists from 83 countries came through Turkey, armed, trained, and sent into Syria and Iraq. ISIS was created. So this is part of the global jihadist group to divide Syria and the vision of Syria by turning Syria into a new Kandahar and, of course, Turkey as the new Pakistan.
Okay. Ambassador Ashok Sajana, now what is the role that Israel and United States of America play? And there was a mention that had been made by Dr. Wael Awad on this subject, and it's interesting to note, Professor Nadan Nalapat, if you could respond to me on in this regard about how Turkey has been supportive of the Hezbollah striking Israel, and at the same hand it is standing against the Hezbollah when it comes to supporting the Syrian rebels.
Well, I'd like to say that Turkey under Erdogan has basically become very Wahhabi. I mean, the Turks were fighting the Wahhabis for centuries, and finally it seems that Erdogan decided to basically try and make Turkey as Wahhabi as possible. That being the case, Hezbollah is a Shia organization, and the rebels, quote unquote, who are coming through, they hate the Shia. So they will be hating Hezbollah. There's no question. They'll be hating Iran, because Iran is a Shia country. And in fact, Bashar al-Assad himself is a Shia. So I think, you will find that Turkey is of no help to Hezbollah at all. And the reality is that if they succeed in that mission of what they're trying to do, I mean, if they reach Damascus, then of course Syria will become like what Libya became after the fall of Gaddafi. It will become a chaotic situation. But if they are repulsed from now, then there is some chance. But the point is that if they manage to succeed in partitioning Syria, then the resistance that is going from Iran via Syria to Hezbollah will stop, and that will gravely weaken Hezbollah. So the fact is that Israel is now stopping shooting at Hezbollah and is destroying Hezbollah through other means, which is frankly denying them the aid they need to remain in the business of fighting. So Hezbollah will become a completely non-military force because Iran is supplying them the military equipment. So and it is doing it through Syria. So that Syrian road is cut. Well, Hezbollah is in deep trouble. There's no question about it. And Israel will be very, very happy because they're now finishing off Hamas, which is a Sunni organization. They are not going to stop finishing off Hamas. And they've had a ceasefire with Hezbollah because they know how complicated Lebanon is. And they don't want to get involved in the way that they did in the 1980s. But they're now cutting off the land access of Hezbollah to Iran, which is via Syria. And that, I think, is going to really weaken Hezbollah. And finally, if these people succeed and they take Damascus, Syria will become another Libya. And frankly, what Iraq was for a long time, utter chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. Pathikrit Pain, so in a situation such as this, which is as sensitive in the Middle East, that conflict continues to remain over the past several decades, how is the role of Iran going to be played? Because here we see Iran on the back foot. It has been evacuating its military personnel and commanders, is what we are getting to know. Has Iranian forces been weakened by the Syrian rebels that are obviously being backed by Israel, which has also been sending its drones to strike these regions in Syria?
So, Megha, first of all, a small correction. My surname is Pine, not Pain. Secondly, let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham is nothing but al-Nusra, which is nothing but Al-Qaeda, and it is a close affiliate of ISIS. Secondly, whatever happened 10 days back, 14 days back, this organization has no capability to do what it is doing today, which means what you are witnessing is tradecraft, which means there is a strong force which is actually getting it done through Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which means Iranian proxies are being fought by other proxies, and we are actually creating ISIS all over again. And so let me tell you, put it this way, Iran is being countered. That is a different issue. But Israel, it might be a strategic partner of India, and we have all condemned what happened on October 7. We all believe that the state of Israel has the right to exist. But Biden administration right now is gaslighting the whole scenario in Middle East so that conflicts don't end. This is how he is creating this situation, so that Trump, when he comes, he keeps on firefighting and he cannot do the real reforms within the United States. There was track 2 diplomatic relationship that Trump was trying to create with Iranians after he won the election. And that is the reason that these things are being done to ensure that the conflict simply does not end. One, of course, is the case of ensuring that the supply line of Hezbollah is cut because it goes through Syria as it comes to Iran.
Yeah.
By the same time, their other objective is this, so that Russia diverts its resources from the war in Ukraine, comes here, because Russia cannot afford to lose Assad, because it then loses its access to Mediterranean. The issue is this: for far too long, whatever happened in Middle East, many in India and elsewhere, did not bother much. But what the Biden administration and his allies have done right now, in the form of creating and giving rebirth to ISIS, it will give rise to, sorry to say, a large number of lone wolf attacks all over again.
Okay.
Turkey is just a small player here. Erdogan is a proxy. He was dangled the lollipop of Aleppo and he fell into it. I must say this: I have heard a lot of Muslims condemning, criticizing Israel for what they have done in Gaza. But at the same time, today you would see what they have done is transform that entire conflict in Middle East into a Shia-Sunni conflict. And that's why not many Muslims, the entire community, religion is divided into sectarian lines today. Some are condemning, some are supporting.
Okay.
All said and done, conflicts are not going to end. Military-industrial complex is ensuring the conflicts continue. And I condemn Biden administration for reigniting ISIS because it would have severe consequences. There was a decade-long conflict across the world because of ISIS. These fellows, for the sake of selling their weapon systems, for the sake of their own security, is doing something they should not have done.
Okay, all right. Dr. Vail, shall we hear your perspective as well? Is this all an orchestration of the Biden administration days ahead of him stepping down as the president of America and Trump taking over, making it even more difficult and seeping America into the already complicated conflict zone that the Middle East is?
Well, I think I cannot agree less than my two panelists what they have said, and I would also like to add here a very important point that the Biden administration is tightening the hands of Trump in two fronts. One is the Ukraine front and one is the West Asian front. The Ukraine by allowing the ballistic missile to attack deep inside Russia, which will widen the conflict and will be very difficult for Trump to have any sort of a political solution to the crisis. So where the NATO is already involved in this war. The second part in Syria, where we have seen that the Trump administration, or Trump before coming to power, he said he wanted to withdraw the American troops from Syria and Iraq, which you know that there are more than 14 military bases illegally by the American in Syria. Now, by reviving Al-Qaeda and ISIS in this region, you will only give a pretext for the United States to stay back in that region and the pretext of fighting terrorism. While we all know that America used terrorism as a tool to achieve its political objectives. So it will be very difficult to pull the troop, and I think they will drag Iran into a regional war. Now, what they have done in Syria by reviving the terrorist organization, and I'm already in the process of publishing my article on this, it's very simple. When Turkey is trying to be the new Ottoman Empire, we always called him the de facto Khalifa. He wanted to make sure that Syria fall, Egypt fall, and there will be a kind of a sectarian violence in this part of the world. The route supply from Iran through Iraq into Syria to Lebanon will be cut out. And also division of Syria is on the card because that is the only way where you can create a sectarian violence. And Turkey, by playing the dirty game, is shooting its own feet because that is what they have done. Once you cook the poison, you will test it. And all these terrorists will be pushed back into Turkey in one day and they will be disintegrated. So Syria is fighting terrorism as we have done it in the past. But now Russia is trying to help the Syrian, but in the limited way, because they are unable to help the Syrian president. The similar thing is Iran, because the Iranian also looking for a political solution to their crisis. The Iraqi were warned by the American not to allow the Popular Front to join hand with the Syrian as they did in the 2015. So the situation is getting more grim because the sole beneficiary of the truce in Lebanon is Netanyahu.
Okay. Professor Mazen Alapat, one country's terrorist is another country's liberation, revolution movement. How do we look at these fast-paced developments? Pathakrit spoke about how this is, ISIS that is being given birth to once again. Flames are being fanned at this point of time. There's also a view of Dr. Wael Awad where he speaks about the Syrian rebels as terrorists who need to be clamped down. In a situation such as this, what is it that Israel is going to do in wake of the attacks that continue despite the efforts of the United Nations by way of resolutions to force Israel into ensuring there is ceasefire? On the other hand, when we see there is Lebanon, there is Hezbollah and Israel ceasefire that has been established, and there is a conflict situation that we witness in the neighboring Syria territory as well. What does all this amount to?
Well, first I'd like to say that I don't believe the Russians are going to be stopped in Ukraine. The Syrian matter is not going to divert the attention from Ukraine, and they will press ahead in Ukraine. So that will be an unfulfilled hope for the Biden administration. There's no doubt the Biden administration is lighting fires all over. And since Biden is anyway going to retire in about a month's time, he has no problem. He will allow some other president, Trump, will come, whom he hates, to try and put these fires out. It's a very, very dangerous move, frankly. But the reason why Israel is basically supporting this is, one, to completely choke Hezbollah. You know, if you cut off the funding, you cut off the supplies, basically that organization is drained of oxygen and it perishes. So that's what Israel is doing. They're not using guns. They're using this to do so. But it is what they believe, and possibly correctly, is that these characters, these goons that are now going all over the place. I'm shocked to see CNN carry an interview with a terrorist leader and interview him as though he were some kind of a holy figure or something. I was shocked to see that interview on CNN. And so it's very clear the Biden administration is also supporting these people. Otherwise, CNN would not have done that interview. But the fact is that Israel believes, and the United States also, I think, that once Syria is partitioned and the flow of assistance from Iran to Hezbollah is stopped, and that partition, well, the ISIS elements can be taken care of by the Air Force. It's been done in the past, and it will be done again. Now the question is Russia. How far does Russia go? Because frankly, I don't think they will allow Bashar al-Assad to lose any more territory. I don't think they will allow him to lose Damascus. If they do, it's a huge strategic reverse for them, and a huge strategic reverse. So presumably this will stop now.
But then you see that these rebels are advancing. They've taken over 3 cities. They are now entering into the capital of Syria. We also see, as reported, that the family has fled of Bashar al-Assad. Al-Assad is himself missing right now. The Iranians have started evacuating their troops. Does this showcase that there is some degree of success that has already been gotten by the rebels, by the kind of developments that we see in the last 24 hours? Professor Nalapat.
If Damascus falls, then I think the situation is going to become completely out of control. It will become another Libya and what Iraq was after Saddam Hussein fell, which by the way was a good thing. But Saddam Hussein fell, but what replaced it was terrible. But the point is that it's a very dangerous situation, Megha. It is true Hezbollah will be finished off, but then ISIS elements are going to basically go all over the world and carry out attacks in Europe, United States, and various parts of the world. So frankly, by letting the genie out of the bottle, I think more harm than good is being done. So yes, ultimately the Air Force will work, precision-guided missiles will work, drones will work, and these chaps will be eliminated one by one. But that is what they are banking on, and it's very clear Israel is supporting this. Because Israel would like to end Hezbollah completely, but not by weapons, but by other.
Right, absolutely. Paisakrit, let's hear it from you now. What's going to be the end game over here? Do you see then there is a culmination of the Israel-Hezbollah and then Israel-Hamas war in sight?
Well, there's no end game. Gaddafi was killed almost a decade back. Do you see Libya a better place today? The whole region is burning thanks to United States and particularly Obama, who is actually running the government, who ran the government behind Biden for the last 4 years. Secondly, see, I disagree that the theory of one, country's liberator becomes other country's terrorist. It's not applicable all the time, because ISIS guys have killed both Shias and Sunnis. They have killed all kinds of people, including non-Muslims as well. So, ISIS is something else. If you call, or if I call Hezbollah as a terrorist organization, or Houthis as a terrorist organization, or Hamas as a terrorist organization, I have to then equally call ISIS as a terrorist organization. Israel, for the sake of eliminating Hezbollah, because it is overstretched today, just cannot give rise to an ISIS. Professor Nalaput is right that they will eventually bank on bombing. I mean, what happens when you start bombing ISIS? They scatter to other countries, different countries, and they tell their supporters that go back to your own country and start doing those lone wolf attacks. Do they realize what they're giving birth to? For 10 years, this conflict continued, and it's going to start and it's going to continue for the next 10 years. Frankly speaking, it would give tremendous rise to the price of oil. ISIS, when it came previous decade, it was working almost as a de facto country. Who was helping them to sell the oil? Who was helping them to get the market? They had Toyota pickup trucks all registered with a particular organization in Europe. And when they went to Mosul and did that kind of operation against the Iraqi Special Operations Division, Special Forces, one battalion of ISIS wiped away a division of Iraqi Special Forces, which means they're professionally trained. There's a country behind it. And that country, it cannot be Turkey, because Turkey is a very, very small, insignificant pie.
You mentioned that, yes.
There is no end game.
Okay, all right.
It's going to continue.
Dr. Velavat, what's your view on the subject? Do you think this is, fueling more conflict, more tensions in the area, and you think this is once again giving rebirth to ISIS, that is going to cause more terrorist activities across the globe?
Well, I would say it in this way: if you don't support Syria fighting terrorism, you are siding with terrorist organizations. That is the straightforward. I'm very blank about it. What's happening in Syria is a terrorism revival of terrorist organization, where they call good terrorists and bad terrorists, because this is the same Bin Laden, who was a veteran when they took him to Afghanistan, and he turned out to be a terrorist. He was a CIA agent. We all know that. Golani had $10 million in his head, but still CNN could interview him. Very good for the United States. If that is the hypocrisy of the West, let us expose them. Why are we falling prey into their hand? If Damascus falls, it is Baghdad, it is Tehran, and it is India, it is South Asia. The whole of the terrorist organization will be reactivated in this part of the world. I have been saying it for years, and I continue to say it, because I am fully convinced that the United States wanted to disintegrate this part to make it into a chaotic under the clean and break policy in 1995. This is to make sure that Israel dominant is there. We are not saying we are against Israelis to have survival as a state, but when you want to annihilate the whole of Palestine, to make it a Jewish state, now you have a reason to say that I am surrounded by terrorist organization. I have no choice but to go into Judaism. So where is the Palestinian state? The crux of the problem, occupation and expansion, will continue to hunt the Middle East for years to come. Syrian president is very much in Damascus. He is going to deliver a speech very shortly. I can assure you of that. We have lost Aleppo in 2015. Then we liberated Aleppo in 2015. My hometown, Hama, is under the control of the Salafist and the Takfiri group. I have no connection with my family there. I am unable to talk to them for the last 3 days. I can understand. I have covered enough war to understand the heinous crimes by those savages who can continue to give their trimmed beer with a suit to wear to prove to the world that they are moderate. They are nothing but a savage who wanted to destroy, destabilize, and spread Salafist and fundamentalist in this part of the world.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm out of time. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast and sharing your views on this fast developing story that we will keep a close eye on. On that note, I slip into a short break. Thanks for watching NewsX.